Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to explore a very important topic: why women betray you and leave first. This is the first slide of our presentation, and I want to give you a quick idea of what we'll cover. We'll look into the reasons behind these difficult situations, understand the underlying dynamics, and hopefully find ways to improve our relationships. So, let's get started and dive into this insightful discussion. The modern dating and marriage landscape has shifted significantly from the social structures that once kept relationships stable for centuries. Today, we're seeing a different pattern emerge. A growing number of men are reporting a painful and often heartbreaking experience. The woman they loved, the woman they trusted, ends up betraying them. She leaves first, often taking resources, children, and social sympathy with her, leaving the man emotionally and financially devastated. It's important to clarify that this isn't about hatred towards women. Instead, it's about understanding the underlying psychology, the cultural programming, and systemic changes that create incentives for female betrayal, and at the same time, punish male trust. Recognizing these factors helps us better grasp the dynamics at play in today's relationships and why they sometimes seem so fundamentally different from the past. This understanding is crucial as we explore the broader themes of trust, loyalty, and systemic influence in modern relationships. Let's take a closer look at the evolutionary and historical context behind these behaviors. From an evolutionary standpoint, both men and women are capable of engaging in polygamous behavior. That means, biologically, it's within human potential for both genders. However, the consequences of infidelity have historically been quite different for each gender. For men, infidelity didn't usually threaten the survival of the family as long as they maintained their role in providing resources and protection. In other words, if a man was still supporting his family, his infidelity was less disruptive to the family unit. On the other hand, female infidelity posed a more significant threat. It could cast doubt on paternity, which was crucial for male investment and commitment. If a woman was unfaithful, it could disrupt the male's willingness to invest in the family, and this often led to the collapse of the family structure altogether. Because of this, many past civilizations imposed strict constraints on female sexuality. But it's important to understand that these constraints weren't just oppressive rules, they served a purpose. They were mechanisms designed to ensure family stability and to secure paternal investment. When those constraints began to collapse in the modern era, we saw a shift. The latent potential for female opportunism, which was previously suppressed, became more socially and legally accepted. This change has significant implications for understanding the dynamics of relationships today, especially when viewed through the lens of our overall theme: how evolutionary history influences contemporary behaviors. On this slide, we're looking at the second major shift brought about by modern feminism. But it's important to clarify what I mean here. We're not just talking about the push for equal rights, which was a crucial step. Instead, this shift is about the push for equal outcomes, where women seek the same results as men, but without necessarily sharing the responsibilities that come with those results. For example, divorce, which once carried a social stigma and even social consequences, has become much more accepted. Women no longer face what was called social death for leaving a marriage. Promiscuity, which used to be heavily judged, has been reframed as a form of empowerment, giving women a sense of control over their own choices. Legal systems have also changed significantly. They've been restructured to make it easier for women to leave marriages while still maintaining financial stability and custodial advantages. This has granted women freedoms that were once denied, freedom from certain responsibilities and commitments. But here's the critical point: these freedoms often come without the same level of accountability that was expected in the past, and the cultural narrative around this has shifted as well. It now teaches women that their happiness should come before their commitments, that they deserve better, and that leaving a relationship isn't seen as failure, but as liberation. All of this ties into the broader theme of how societal shifts influence personal responsibility and cultural values. It's a complex dynamic that continues to shape our understanding of gender roles and personal fulfillment today. Now, let's dive into the psychology behind why women often leave first, especially in modern relationships. There are three main forces at play here. First, there's what I call programming for perpetual dissatisfaction. Thanks to social media, magazines, and influencers, women are constantly bombarded with the idea that there's always something better out there. This trains them to see their current partner as a temporary stepping stone rather than a lasting commitment. Next, we have the separation of intimacy. Modern culture tends to encourage women to split emotional intimacy from sexual intimacy. They might ration sex within the marriage while seeking excitement outside of it. And often, they justify this betrayal as a form of self-discovery, which can make it seem more acceptable to themselves. Finally, there's what I call monkey branching behavior. Women rarely leave a relationship without a plan. They tend to keep orbiters, backup men, who are promoted the moment she decides to exit. This setup ensures she has a continuous flow of validation, emotional support, and resources, making the transition smoother. All of these factors together highlight how modern influences shape women's decisions to leave. Understanding these forces is key to grasping the broader theme of relationship dynamics today. Let's talk about systemic incentives and why betrayal can sometimes seem to be rewarded in our society today. Modern institutions, in many ways, actively encourage or at least make betrayal less costly. For example, family courts tend to favor women when it comes to custody and financial support, often granting custody almost automatically and shaping divorce settlements that favor them. Therapists sometimes frame female infidelity as stemming from unmet needs or as a form of personal growth, which can inadvertently validate destructive choices rather than challenge them. Meanwhile, media and social influencers often glorify promiscuity and normalize cheating, portraying divorce as a form of empowerment rather than a loss or failure. Social networks and dating apps add another layer, offering endless options and constant validation, which makes loyalty feel less appealing compared to the thrill of novelty. The result of all this? Betrayal for women often faces little to no real consequence, while men can suffer devastating outcomes. This systemic setup subtly shifts incentives, shaping behaviors in ways that align with the theme of this presentation: how societal structures influence personal decisions and the consequences that follow. Let's talk about the profound impact this dynamic has on men, children, and society as a whole. The costs are truly catastrophic. For men, it often means losing their resources, their families, and their reputations. Many also lose the will to trust again, which can have long-lasting effects on their well-being. For children, the consequences are equally severe. They lose stable homes and the paternal influence that helps shape healthy development. Children also miss out on positive relationship models. Boys may learn that commitment can lead to devastation, while girls might grow up believing that betrayal is rewarded, an incredibly damaging lesson. When we look at society, the effects are just as troubling. We see the breakdown of strong family structures, replaced by cycles of brokenness and dependence on state systems. This leads to widespread mistrust between the sexes and creates a cycle of dysfunction that can span generations. Sons grow up without strong male role models, and daughters may see betrayal as the norm. Ultimately, this weakens the very foundation of civilization, the family unit, making it more fragile with each passing generation. Connecting this to our overall theme, it's clear that the health of families directly influences the health of society. When these bonds are fractured, the ripple effects touch every aspect of our social fabric. Let's talk about what I call the tragic paradox. Ironically, women also face long-term losses in this dynamic. When women see betrayal as a form of empowerment, they might feel a sense of short-term victory or freedom. But what often happens is they end up making themselves unmarriageable, which can have serious consequences down the line. While they might enjoy some immediate thrills or get access to resources temporarily, this mindset can actually damage their ability to form lasting, meaningful pair bonds. It can also undermine the stability of their children's lives, which is a crucial point. And in the end, many women find themselves alone, feeling disillusioned and resentful about the choices they've made. What's framed as freedom in the moment can turn out to be a trap. Women trade lasting fulfillment for fleeting excitement. So the key takeaway here is that these short-term gains often come at the cost of their own futures. And that's a paradox worth understanding deeply, especially within the broader theme of relationships and personal well-being. The harsh reality we're facing is that modern women often don't leave first because they're confused or emotionally overwhelmed. Instead, it's because the system actually rewards them for making that choice. They gain resources rather than lose them, and socially they're celebrated instead of shamed. It's important to realize that society tends to believe women automatically, while men are often condemned without question. So for men, the response can't just be blind trust. We need to be aware, set healthy boundaries, and focus on self-protection. That means avoiding legal traps like marriage without protections, things like prenuptials or infidelity clauses. Maintaining our financial independence is crucial. We should also establish clear, non-negotiable boundaries in relationships to protect ourselves. And one thing to be cautious about, if we forgive betrayal too easily, it can actually signal weakness rather than strength. Recognizing these points helps us stay grounded and makes us less vulnerable in a system that often isn't on our side. This all ties back to the overall theme. Being aware and prepared is key in navigating today's relationship landscape. As we come to the conclusion, I want to emphasize that what we're seeing as a broken system isn't just about individual choices or isolated incidents. It's far more systemic than that. The betrayal and abandonment men face today are not simply due to female nature. Rather, they are the result of a system designed to destabilize families and, ultimately, profit from that very breakdown. For example, lawyers often profit from divorce proceedings, making the process financially advantageous for them. Therapists, meanwhile, benefit from ongoing trauma, which keeps clients coming back. Governments, on their part, gain from increased dependence on social support systems. And media outlets thrive on chaos and sensationalism, which keeps audiences engaged. What this all points to is that, unless the incentives within this system change, this pattern of betrayal and family destruction will just continue. And the tragic part is everybody loses. Men, women, children, society as a whole, they all suffer from this cycle. The hard but crucial lesson here is that betrayal is no longer just an occasional mistake. It has been programmed, incentivized, and normalized by these systemic forces. The key to protecting ourselves in this environment is awareness. Because unlike loyalty, which is exploited here, awareness is what truly shields us from falling into these traps. Ultimately, the world we live in today doesn't reward loyalty. It exploits it. That's why understanding these underlying motives and systemic influences is vital for breaking free from this broken system.